I don't even remember how to restart. So yeah, I podcast and I don't even remember how to restart these myself. So we'll figure it out. We'll just roll with it.
Have a sports podcast.
Yeah,
No
right.
sports happening.
I know this is
Yep.
Oh, perfect timing.
What a time to start a sports podcast or restart. We could call it. We're saying we're restarting one, right?
I think between all of us, we probably cover the sports that are happening now. Are you guys watching UFC?
A little bit. So not on
Okay.
pay. Didn't buy the pay-per-view,
All right.
but
I've been watching those, and Rob, you watch NASCAR. Mark, do you watch NASCAR?
I did.
I do not.
Neither do I.
Yes.
Golf?
Here and there.
Is there golf?
Yeah,
Yeah,
there was
they're
one
doing-
today.
Is that
Charity
back?
thing.
They
Not-
played skins
Yeah,
or something like that, a foursome.
it wasn't PGA stuff. It was just like it was a charity event, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this
We
wasn't.
can all talk The Last Dance.
Yeah, I know. Well, unfortunately, we're doing this
Well,
in the
not
middle
really.
of the finale over here. so the poor
Yeah, you
timing.
booked this during the premier sports event of the last 2 months.
I know.
So you want to do a sports podcast, and you scheduled it during the one time something sports related that everyone's talking about.
I did. Because I don't know what I was thinking. That shows how well this was thought out. So no, but seriously though, how have you guys? We'll say we're rolling. So
yeah,
how the heck have you been? I know we caught up not too long ago on a different sort of Zoom call, but how have you guys been during this? So we were looking back with Marie, my wife's a teacher, and her last day of school was 10 weeks ago. So we've been doing this for 10 weeks. How the last 10 weeks been? So either of you.
It started off okay. And then, it started off okay because daycare was still open. And then daycare closed. And now Jess and I are both still working from home with a 3-year-old who, like, you can't tell him, like, what's going on. Nothing will make sense to him. So it's like, feeling like a bad employee or feeling like a bad parent. Either one, all day. And just sitting in front of a screen. It's rough. We finally started to get into a routine, but then daycare opened up, and now it's pretty good. It's a small daycare, so it's what's that?
You got daycare back.
Yeah, and it's low risk because it's super small. There's no more than 5 kids there on any day.
Oh wow.
And the parents are all also working from home, so no one's going anywhere. It's usually like 3 kids total, including him. So it's weird. Just a weird time. The weirdest time, honestly. It's just the weirdest time.
So Mark, you're sitting on this with 2 guys that have, with 3-year-olds. So we're both sitting here trying to work from home with 3-year-olds. A little bit different situation for you, and you're Frederick, Maryland.
At least you have something to talk about.
Or yell at. Talk about or yell at.
Yeah.
So.
You're pretty much looking at it. Like, I'm still working too, and when there's no more noise and you're not doing anything anymore, all you have is time to look inward. And I think I'm a fraud. I have nothing going on. I'm not as interesting as I thought. This is it.
Go
to work, finish up, go to bed.
Yeah.
Do you shower?
I
still shower,
yes.
right? Okay.
Yes.
So that's good.
Do you shower as often?
No. No.
I see. I've talked to a lot of my coworkers are either in me and Rob's camp of showering less, and some people just have to shower still every day. Like, that's their norm. That's how to stay grounded and anchored.
So Mark, you said you still work. Do you get dressed up for, like, do you try to treat it like a work day? Because I know that, back when this started, a lot of people were like, well, make sure you still shower, get dressed, and sit down in front of your computer like it's your office.
No, I mean, all my meetings are audio only, so sweatpants and hoodie are the new business casual.
Why is that? No one does video? They don't do the video meetings?
No. I'm not complaining. Some people have the web. Some people have the webcam, but I don't, and I'm not going to ask for one. So I'm happy with the arrangement.
I was in like an interesting situation where I switched jobs back in October, and I do work from home. So I was getting used to that adjustment, and then like I said, wife's a teacher, so we knew that the day would come where daycare would kind of end and she would be home for the summer, and we'd have to figure out, maybe I'd go to like a coffee shop every once in a while just to sort of, get out of the house and have some quiet. But we were really thrown into this, having to all of us. She's still doing online virtual classes. Their school year comes to an end soon, but so I got to adjust a little bit to knowing what working from home was like. But it's tough. It's just, Max, I know, well, all three of us, we can all sort of, I think, attest to the fact that it's difficult to try to get things done. I mean, it was already difficult kind of getting used to working from home, but then to have all this on top of it and everyone here, the dog's sick of me at this point. So it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah,
I guess it's all about having kids then, because I've actually been getting more work done. That's all I had to do.
Yeah,
so it's been pretty easy to focus on work.
I was always productive with working from home, and like when I don't have an office to go to, and there's like, we have video meetings and whatnot, and they're scheduled, and more so now. There's a lot more video meetings now, but when I'm even previous jobs, when I was able to work from home, I found myself to be more productive being here. So I'd say, if anything, I'm as productive. I'd probably be more productive if this whole thing wasn't going on and we weren't switching off who was watching the kid and who was in front of their computer. But I don't think it's had too big of an impact from that perspective for me.
Yeah, for productivity, like way more productive than, because in my office it's open office, so there's a lot of side conversations that's happening. So at home, way more productive until Anderson was also at home, and then it was like you would not be able to do like 30 minutes of work straight through. Like, you'd have to break, and like Jess and I would have to get our schedules in sync to see who could watch him for a bit while they get something done. Then productivity really plummeted. But now it's starting to get back on track.
Getting there. Weird. We found out recently that daycare, we used to have a summer camp. They're done. They're not doing it. So not doing it until next fall. They kind of threw the question mark on next fall too. They were like, well, we'll see what it's like when everything, if PA moves into, we're in one of the remaining counties where it's still red. They haven't moved to like the yellow phase or whatever, but they're already starting to throw question marks about whether it'll be open in the fall. So craziness, but different.
It's kind of the over under.
I know. Different time we're living in. But I think I throw it back to, I'm going to see if I could do this real quick with screen sharing. I don't know if I'm going to be able to, but I'm going to try. Share my desktop. I want to show you guys.
That's always a good idea.
I know, right? Trying this live while we're here. I want to show you guys something that from the last time we podcasted, if you remember, it was back in 2015, possibly.
16, probably.
No, because we were still living in Virginia at the time. Because we hadn't, I know this only because of, I'm not gonna be able to do it. I don't want to do it live. So unfortunately, I'm not gonna be able to do it. I'll have to edit it in after. But I found screenshots of each of us from the last time we podcasted, and we look like a young bunch. I don't know if it's quarantine or what, but like the last time we podcasted, I didn't have a beard. That's clearly changed. Max, you didn't have a hair on your face.
Yep.
Seth isn't with us today. He said he wants to do this eventually. He had a camera that clearly was like maybe if it wasn't an iPhone, but at the time it would have been like the original iPhone.
A potato camera.
Right? And then Mark, I don't think you've changed. I'm going back and forth between the two screenshots. I don't think you've changed. So
good.
So
that's 5 years. I'll take it.
I know. And at that time it was our way too early look at what was coming up for the next football season. And we did a brief recap of what had just finished, and that was the Super Bowl. And it was the Patriots Seahawks, and Russell Wilson throwing the pick in the end zone at the end of the game to seal it. So we've come a far way since then. You thinking,
Yeah,
you
this would have
know,
a lot of impact if we could see the pictures.
I know.
And that really
I'll
would have brought
throw.
it together.
I know. If I could, I'll send it to myself while we're sitting here talking, and I'll put it in front of the. We'll do this very, shop together. But no, thinking of sports and kind of what you guys, how we've been getting through this. How, what have you guys been like? Have you been watching anything? Have you been trying to watch anything? What's like the weirdest thing you've seen on TV that isn't, without having live sports here to kind of keep us busy? What have you been doing sports related?
I've been watching a lot of esports. I've been watching a lot of well, not a lot of UFC. They just started doing UFC with no crowd. And that's it. And options are limited, so that covers probably more than 50% of what you can watch. And that's it. It's bizarre. I thought, well, I'll let you answer before we go deeper into the current situation of sports.
There we go.
I haven't been watching anything. Whoa, there's the picture.
Look at your screen. So this is what we were looking like.
That's great.
Garlits with the third shark, lower third, because this was the time.
Yeah, Mark, you look exactly the same, Mark.
The dancing sharks.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I think that, like I said, I think that was the last time I shaved was in that picture. And there we are. Esports. I mean, that's kind of one of the things I thought about, and that was like one of the earliest things that a lot of, I think sort of those regional sports networks were kind of struggling with what to do, because all they were like hockey and basketball. Baseball season never really got fully up and running. So they all kind of, I don't know if you saw any of this. And Mark, I feel like if there was any city where it would have happened other than Philly, it's Pittsburgh. But like our Comcast Sportsnet around here switched to like simulating games on the days that they would have happened. So,
that's always like a staple of like a works, like they did that during like the MLB strike last time. Like that, it's an easy fallback.
Like they're doing it now. The MLB The Show is like they're going through the Philly schedule every night, and it's kind of sad to watch because they have the broadcasters doing it, and they're like calling it like it's a live game, and you're like, oh, I feel bad for you, but that's kind of what they're left to try to do.
Yeah, so that's too depressing. There was like a hot streak of like classic games right when this started, where every channel just kind of threw up their hands and started showing like the greatest games. NBC Sports had an awesome one, and it was like the best of Sunday Night Football. And then they stopped doing it. They had me sucked in, and I don't see it anymore. But it was a lot of fun because like they haven't changed that much. So you throw it on, it's still like Alan, Chris, and it was like comfortable, and it was fun to just see. Like the one I watched that sucked me in was Colts Patriots, where the Patriots went for it on, I think, like 4th and 6 on their own like 25-yard line.
Yep.
And I just was watching that game. Like, I know they're going to lose this. I just don't know how. And then I pieced it together.
Yeah.
So I mean, that was fun for a couple of weeks, and then it kind of ran its course.
We just had that recent. Well, the one weekend ESPN did it. They did like a Philly Friday or something like that. They played Invincible. Because the weirdest thing to me was watching ESPN go to all these sports movies every night. Like they do all kinds of crazy, just like Major League Baseball. I've seen on a few of them, a few nights, and I mean The Rookie. I saw somewhere MLB Network was showing movies, but ESPN did Invincible, and then they followed it up with 2 of their like 30-minute greatest game highlights with the Super Bowl 52, obviously. Newspaper right there. And then the following year's Double Doink with the Bears. Just the like 30-minute recaps of, telling those stories. And those are – then what, like 2 nights ago I watched the Flyers Game 7 against Boston, where they came back and won that game from down 0-3 and ended up winning the series from down 0-3. And then that was, on the same network. Right after that was the 4th and 26 game, where I find myself watching that whole thing. So, like, classic games are okay, I guess, but
they're only good for like so long.
Yeah,
like it's good for a month, and then it's like, oh man.
And that's what happened.
I've seen a lot of these.
So it was a nice bridge between what started, and then the NFL draft was the lifesaver.
Yeah.
That was a solid weekend. That sucked up, and then you have like articles going in, articles coming after, and then nothing again.
And then, well, NFL too, they had like a whole 2-week span there where it was like the draft,
Yeah.
and then they had this, never been more excited for a schedule release over the last couple of years, I don't think, than watching 3-hour teardowns of what the schedule looks like.
Well, I mean, that kind of stuff was better than like the horse tournament, which I don't think landed as much as they thought.
Yeah, that was terrible. What was it? Mike Conley was the only one playing indoors, and he's the guy that wins it. So, like, his indoor court.
So the sports that have been on, so UFC, NASCAR, a little bit of golf. I'm sure you've watched some with no crowd. What do you think about that?
Yeah, NASCAR was today. That's one, the crowd's not really that big of a factor in it anyway. So it didn't feel too different. But one of the things, and I did get a glimpse of UFC. And this is kind of maybe my past as a wrestler and having, gotten back into it as a coach at the old high school. I thoroughly enjoyed being able to hear all of the stuff they were yelling in the middle of UFC. And I thought it added another kind of level of just, you feel like you're part of the sport. And as much as like the yelling and cheering and all that sort of stuff, kind of, I'm sure the guys in the ring feed off that, and it's important to what they're doing in there, but it kind of made it a lot more interesting to watch in that regard, because you can kind of just get a sense of the strategies, what they were yelling at them to do and stuff like that. So I kind of enjoyed it personally.
Yeah, I think it showed pretty well on TV. Like once you get past like the crowd not being there, I think it's like in a unique position where it televises well, because the background's dark. It's the octagon, so like the camera, like there's no hard camera. You're just moving around, so you don't get to like fixate on the empty crowd. So that's been pretty good. I think sport by sport, you might get different results.
Yeah. I can tell you what I don't like is I signed up. I did a free month trial of WWE Network, the month of WrestleMania, and hot garbage. Hot garbage was WrestleMania.
Although a big part of that.
I got to tell you what I did enjoy about it was the cinematic matches that they've started doing. So they like
those were fun.
They're awesome.
I watched it.
Like Undertaker and AJ Styles wrestling in a graveyard. Incredible.
That was a murder.
Yeah, it was. It was. Mark Calloway is officially wanted.
It's like glimpses of the Attitude Era, man. When you're just like wrestling by like next to a garbage truck, and then someone gets tossed in the garbage truck. It's amazing.
McMahon's limo blowing up when he gets inside of it. It's just unbelievable. And I mean, they've kind of kept that going too. I think they realized that that's kind of where their bread and butter is, because then I didn't have the pass still for it, but Money in the Bank, they literally had them wrestle through. It's a ladder match typically every year, and instead of it was still ladders. The ring was on top of the corporate building up in Connecticut, and they had the wrestlers actually wrestle through the building to try to get to the roof, and kind of made it a fun experience with like cameos throughout and all sorts of stuff. So everyone's finding a way, which I think is kind of what it boils to. Even NASCAR, when they weren't able to go to the track, I thought this was interesting. And you mentioned esports. They started an iRacing series, like just for a few weeks, where every weekend I think it was in the middle of the week, they were having their drivers gear up. They were using it to kind of showcase the different rigs that you could build and the equipment that went into it, and literally having them race NASCAR races virtually, through a video game.
How'd that work out?
It was kind of interesting. Some of the drivers
about $10 million in sponsorships.
Well, see, no, actually, because they're still showing their cars, right? So that's actually part of the reason why they did it, was to show the sponsorships on the cars and still give those guys TV time and airtime. And when they were doing interview, they would have live feeds into wherever they were racing from, and they'd be able to talk about it and name drop their sponsors and whatnot. But it's a way to keep it going. If anyone was sort of, I think, entertaining in the way they kept their sport going throughout this. NASCAR might get some sort of nod in that way, just the way they were able to do it.
Yeah. If you would have asked me without any context before the pandemic and everything, if you would have just asked me, like, do you think sports would be possible with no audience? And I'd be like, absolutely not. No way. Not a chance. And now, like, now that I've experienced it, I'm like, you get used to it pretty quickly. And then you, like, see all the plus sides of no crowd. It's going to be pretty cool. It's like, say the NFL happens with no crowd, no home field advantage. It's going to be crazy.
It's going to be really weird. So, well,
yeah.
Here's my question. Do you think it happens? Do you think they get off on time? And do you think they, is it a normal season just without fans?
It really
Which
feels
sport, NFL?
like.
I start with NFL. I kind of want to go through them because baseball we can talk about.
I think that MLB is right. It should have started when everybody was being super cautious now. But I think now we're hitting the point that even the more liberal areas, I'm living in a liberal state that has pretty strict guidelines. It just seems like everyone is just like, let's get back and see what happens and kind of throw caution to the wind. And I think that as we get closer to the NFL season, people are just going to be like, go for it, just do it. Like, no crowd, they won't go that far, but I think that they'll have games where the teams just travel to and play in empty stadiums.
Like, not even, so you don't think they'll even have, because I know you think hockey and baseball, they were proposing like those neutral sites, bring everyone to one or two stadiums, something like that. Football, I don't think you can do that, but.
No, yeah, I don't think you could. But I think we're still like August, September, like, yeah, I think they'll be traveling, and I think they'll go to their stadiums. Still no crowd, but I think my guess is they'll go.
So that's hard to say though, because it's not August or September. It's earlier than that because they have to get a commitment probably around like mid-July so they can start prepping for the season. So that's like 2 months from now.
I bet they axe preseason.
That's fair.
People don't care. People have been poo-pooing on preseason for years now. It's like no loss. This is the perfect opportunity to get rid of preseason.
They're already trying to like take one of those games and make it a real game anyway. So I'm sort of with you. I think we have I think they might even expand rosters a little bit. I know 53 is kind of I haven't heard this discussed anywhere yet, so I'm not sure if it's out there or not. But 53 man, any couple of guys get sick. I think and this is part of the baseball proposal too, is expanding rosters. Because you don't know if someone gets sick, what does that mean? How long are they out? And in football, a 14-day quarantine, that's 2 weeks. That's an eighth of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Upping the roster, travel, I don't think there's going to be too much, maybe reduced staff size in terms of who's on the road, sort of those simple things like that. But I think it gets off in time, just no fans, maybe by, and this is, in the instance that there isn't this second wave coming that everyone's talking about happening in the fall. But, maybe by midway through the season, we start seeing at least some number of fans being allowed into stadiums, things like that. Because could you imagine a Super Bowl with no fans?
Yes.
Imagine that.
I can now. I wouldn't have been
right?
able to imagine a UFC fight with no crowd. And now I've seen them like, yeah, all right, it's fine. I would, you know what? Like, even if they did something weird, like pumped fake crowd noise, like,
which
they already said they're going to do that.
They've talked about it. Fox, the innovator of all things TV sports and the highlighted puck and everything else that's failed, has talked about putting virtual fans in the seats of games and pumping in fake crowd noise during their broadcasts.
The crowd noise is a must because that silence is deafening. You need like a white noise machine or something. And the fake fans, I don't like as much because have you watched South Korean baseball with the cardboard cutout people in the background?
Yeah. Yeah. It's weird.
Yeah.
The silence is, I think the silence is only deafening at first. And then when you get used to it, you're like, okay. And then you take note to other things that are happening on the field. Like, I don't know. I think like I said, it just takes some getting used to it, but I think it'd be fine without it.
Is there any like competitive advantage with football? Hearing signals called out and things like that.
Oh, big time. That's like that's the sport where home field advantage is everything. Where the offense can't hear calls because that's the biggest. There's going to be like no home field advantage. Bet the visiting team every time. Every time.
So we can get back to football, but not to jump over them real quick. Are we past the point of no return here for baseball or for basketball and hockey? Do we have an NBA champion? Do we have a Stanley Cup?
They seem to think no, it's not too late. So I guess we'll know in the next couple of weeks.
I thought basketball already said
that they were coming back.
No, that they're not. I thought they said that this season's pretty much a wash, right?
I think it's still possible.
They're all.
There's a lot of money to be made there.
Yeah.
So I think they'll find a way, but it will be a watered down like postseason. So they'll probably have to do some sort of like round robin play-in. They might have to be all in Las Vegas. So it'll be weird. And then like the larger question is the title tainted? Like think about the integrity of like a championship, and also like think about Game 7 the NBA Finals. LeBron James gets COVID. He tests positive. How do you handle that? And that's I guess the biggest like hypothetical you still have to think about is like, what if a positive test comes up for someone that like can't be replaced?
Right. That's the same in every sport, honestly.
Yes. And that's why it's problematic.
Yeah.
What do you think about continuing the season next season? Not just erasing all of this, but letting teams hold on to their record and then continue the next season.
So for hockey, what they had 3 and 4 weeks left, something like that, before the playoffs. Both sports were really like a month from the end of their season. So you're saying keep those records and play all of next year?
Mm-hmm.
What would you do if you're Detroit and you're like 35 games under 500, like widen bottom?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. There's the pluses and minuses. I don't know. I really wanted to see the Lakers finish out their season.
I know it almost, it's like as if a lockout happened.
Yeah.
75% of the way through the season. Do you just forget about it? Like, do you pick up, and then even when you come around to next year, it's like, do you just pick up where you like? I don't know. It's tough.
There's no good answer. Yeah.
Good.
And I guess like they'll find a way because everyone wants to keep making money. Like there's too much money at play. But like the easiest answer is just to cancel everything and try again next year.
Well, baseball is not going down that path. Mark, I'm sure you've seen this. They've got the plan to come back by July 4th. With a bunch of different restrictions. I mean, I can't even think. There was like some 60, 70-page document that isn't even the full, breadth of kind of the proposal that they're making in terms of, like I said, a little bit ago, expanded rosters and what the traveling team looks like. How
universal DH.
Yeah, universal DH, all that sort of stuff. So, I mean, even to like parts of rules being like no spitting in game and. No handshakes, no gum, no sunflower seeds in the dugouts, like all, the bullpen, not the bullpens necessarily, but like guys that would, staff has to sit in the stands. I mean, there's all a pretty in-depth proposal. What do you think? Have you A, gotten a chance to look at it? B, do you think it's a good idea for baseball to even make an attempt?
Well, I mean, they're welcome to try. I don't think it's a good idea to come back. And like, that's a nice detailed proposal, but they don't have a detailed like CBA proposal. So, I mean, that's the biggest thing is how are they going to split the money? How are they going to handle all those edge cases?
Yeah,
and they really don't have a good answer for that. Like, what if a couple players?
Yeah, we've already seen a couple players like come out saying
thanks, but no thanks.
Right, that or they're not going to take a pay cut. I know, as far as player proposals, I don't know if you guys saw Bryce Harper, probably got a little extra traction around here since he's a Philly now, but had a pretty interesting proposal on Instagram about what a season could look like, where it was 135 games in 138 days. Teams would it was pretty well sketched out. It was like they would get an off day on a Sunday or Monday every other week. It was like 7-inning double headers on Sundays for every team. Games, whatever, expand your rosters to whatever, a round robin playoff that culminated in a 7-game World Series. And it would be done on time, and you're only losing less than 30 games of the season.
Well, that's a clown season, bro.
True.
Yeah. But I mean,
Well,
it's just,
think
it's
about
crazy.
baseball. The only thing that matters are finances. Like it's like the blood of the game, mostly for the worse. It's cynical and horrible, but like the most important thing is player control, like years of control, like years from free agency. That's really all that matters. Sometimes even more so than like the quality of the player. So then you get in this situation where they're going to be arguing about like service time. Like, say you have a health concern and you decide to sit out the season, does your service clock run? And I mean, do you side with players or ownership on that issue? And then it also brings up edge cases, like say the service time clock doesn't run if you sit out the season, and you're someone like JT Realmuto with the Phillies, who's
Yep.
in his walk year.
Yep.
Was he making like 15 million, 18 million?
Mm-hmm.
Before he might want to just hit the open market earlier, but now like that with the new economic reality, like he might not make that much in the open market. So what's stopping him from saying like, I'll just sit out this season because I'm just gonna get a prorated portion anyway, which would be at most 9 million and probably less once they start like settling like the finances. Why don't I just sit out the year, wait till next year and collect the full like 15 million, 18 million, whatever he's making. So, I mean, there's ways to game the system either way. I just don't see a clean way that they can handle it.
Now, the fan in you, this might seem like a silly question, but do you want baseball back this year?
No.
Interesting. Not what I was expecting.
Too watered down. The conversation's all about finances. They really need to blow things up anyway, so maybe this is a good time just to get it done. I don't like, really, I just don't like I don't like any of it. I don't like the crowds. They're not going to be able to play at home stadiums. Like an 82-game season would be just tons of variance. So you might, I mean, I guess it'd be good for the Pirates because they're not as good. Maybe they get lucky and somehow make the playoffs because there was an expanded like playoff field.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't see it. Like it just, if you saw that on TV with empty stadium, this wouldn't feel right.
There's precedent. I don't know if you remember Baltimore.
I do.
Yeah, it was the
everyone said how weird it was.
Yeah. I remember watching, from work that day. It was like a midday game because of the protests around someone in Baltimore being murdered, and they locked out the stadium and just had essential staff, and it was strange. It certainly was strange, but I mean, are we at a point now where, not that we're like numb to seeing, empty stadiums and stuff like that, but like it's been done, so they wouldn't be the first to do it.
Yeah, but imagine that game, but all of a sudden the Orioles are hosting the game like in Phoenix, and everyone in the dugout's wearing masks. I mean, it's still different.
I mean, soccer's back. Germany, they had their first couple of games this weekend. They had the benches for the teams sitting in the stands, a couple seats apart, maintain that social distancing, and seemed to go off without a hitch.
I don't know. I'm just interested because I think there's a lot of players that are incentivized to kind of break whatever like compromise comes up. Like once you see the system, then you can just kind of break it. So like if you're making a lot of money now, all of a sudden you might want to hold on to that money. Like think about Garrett Cole. Like he's just starting his contract and he was set to make like $32 million this year.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden it's 16 and maybe it's a little less. So maybe he doesn't want that contract to start yet.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see how they handle like some of those like high-end contracts.
A lot of variables for sure. I mean, I err on the side of caution too. I've been someone I've only ever left the house 5 times. I could probably count on one hand the number of times to go to a grocery store over these last 10 weeks, and itching to see live sports, that's for sure, one way or the other. So I err on the side of caution too, but also just I want to see it done safely and smartly. And if it can be,
Do
it's
you?
got to start some. Yeah, I do. It's got to be done somewhere, somehow. You know, there's a lot, and
Do you want your?
honestly, it's about a lot more than just my own wanting to watch sports. Think about all the, if there is TV revenue tied up in these things, and people need to be paid. It's not just players. It's like it's the other people on the staff and who work for those teams that you just want to see it do well for them so they can maintain jobs and stuff like that. It just needs to continue.
Yeah. Do you want your entertainment just to be like a constant reminder of
Is it
like
though?
how bad things are?
Is it
I
though?
think it would be. Could be. I mean, if you're seeing like a watered down version, and I just think a lot of the discussion would be more about like what's going on off the field, more so than we think. Like baseball's complicated enough and has enough problems. You throw all this in there, and you have like player morale, because it's not like everyone's like dying to get back. I think there's different motives depending
Yeah.
on where you are in the financial scale and what your lifestyle is like. So what happens if like 10% of the league decides not to play?
Yeah.
Are they just gonna like? It wouldn't be scads because this isn't like a labor dispute.
Right.
But are they just gonna just bring somebody else in and just keep chugging along?
Well, for sure. They have to make sure, and that's where owners can come up with their own proposal. A lot of it also depends on players agreeing with that proposal or having one of their own and finding that compromise. So no matter how much we want it back, if they can't agree, then we're not going to see it.
Another thing to think about is especially the sports that are supposed to be happening right now. I would think that I bet you more than half of current MLB players have not thrown a baseball in the last 2 months. Like have done nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
No working out. There's no access to a gym. So unless they're big enough to have their own at-home gym, like they can't do anything. Like the quality, if they like decide to pick up and play like in a couple weeks, like the quality of play, and then plus injuries because people are just so out of shape and not doing anything. Like it's a whole another thing to think about. It's like maybe they don't even want to play because of that.
And if it takes a month to get into playing shape and you're playing yourself into shape during the games, oops, there's a third of the season.
Right.
Right.
Man, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So we talk about kind of the weirdest things we've seen. I don't know if any of you guys know about the Check Down Instagram. It's like an NFL kind of like pop culture-y type of Instagram account, but they've been running Madden simulations as well for the season. Kind of made me think about, talked about it a little bit here and there, but esports, and Max, maybe this, right up your alley, but the proliferation of esports during this time it's kind of been fun to watch, just more people, whether it's, I think EA Sports hosted like a Madden tournament of some of NFL players. Deshaun Jackson was a part of that. There's been other things. NHL has been doing their NHL 20 simulations and stuff like that with guys. So how from the non-traditional sports has this impact, like the quarantine impacted? Like I downloaded Rocket League. I told you that. So
nice.
Little plug.
Right.
So
yeah,
have you guys seen a boost in that sort of thing?
Well, it's cool. Like across esports, there's two different kinds of tournaments. There's the big events that are at arenas and things, and obviously you can't do those, but you can easily do online tournaments. The difficulty there is you can't have Europe compete with North America, which is a big thing because of the distance and with online gaming. So that's really what those big arenas are for. Those arena events, the LAN events, are for, where the top teams in the world can compete, and you can't do those anymore. So that's a huge blow to like esports altogether. But you can still have huge North American tournaments with the best players in North America, and then Europe competing in all of Europe. So you can have all those as a fallback, and that's really helpful. Like you said, ESPN2 has been airing a bunch. They did 2K with players, with NBA players, and then of course Rocket League has been on there too. So yeah, esports has been still pretty viable because of that whole online aspect. Like you can do it remotely. and still have commentators watch remotely and call the games remotely. Like you could still have that entire experience, which is nice. It fills the void. Like ESPN barely did any esports. They did a little bit, but all of a sudden it's like tons and tons of esports on ESPN2, and there are blocks of the Ocho.
Yep.
It was cool to see. It was cool to see. Did you guys tune in for any of that stuff?
I've seen it here and there. It's been nice when I have the chance to kind of flip it on and see it. I've always been more attracted to the sports video games. So like when I see those on, it's easy for me to dive into those. So like Rocket League, since I've downloaded, I'm horrible at it, but it's been kind of fun to watch how that's gone. At my high school where Murray works, they didn't get to do a field day, or like they used to do like a whole week of stuff. So what they did was they hosted tournaments for some esports, and they hosted a Rocket League tournament. They hosted a Madden tournament. They did a Smash tournament, and they did a Fortnite tournament too. So, I logged onto Twitch, watched it on there. So it's been neat to see that sort of stuff and kind of how it spans generations too. Like you have, I don't know if you guys saw Gretzky and Ovechkin did a heads or like a one-on-one against each other in NHL 20. So to see the great one and the and Gretzky and Ovechkin just go at one another was pretty cool. But
that's awesome. Yeah, so you could. That's cool that you can get the pros in the mix because they still play a bunch. And then there's so many people who play like at least one of those games competitively, so they can jump in any of those tournaments. It's cool to see.
Well, the other thing too, and this is esports related, but kind of more pop culture too. I think it came from you, Wiz Khalifa. Did he host he used Fortnite to host a concert?
Oh, Travis Scott.
Or Travis Scott, not Wiz. Yeah. So I remember.
Yeah.
So, like to see these platforms kind of be used in a way that are non-traditional in a sense. So like, what was that like to watch that?
Yeah. Oh, Fortnite's doing this whole like metaverse type thing where you can jump in. They did DJ sets for in-game DJ sets. You can go in and it's the only place that you can see these DJs perform live. Like they're literally performing live. It's not like a pre-taped thing. The DJ thing was live. The Travis Scott thing was like a pre-made like in-game thing. But yeah, like it's crazy. Fortnite has this whole party island thing where there's like actually no fighting. It's just like this huge social space where you just go and mess around, and then there are these live concerts every now and then. I think on the House Party app. Do you guys use that?
No.
It's like a video chat. It's exactly like Zoom. But they're doing like live concerts in that too. A bunch of different artists is like hop in, is doing this live concert on House Party. It's like wow, this is like it's crazy. This progress, I guess.
Interesting. Mark, any esports experiences I know you were trying to get us on Smash not too long ago. It never came to fruition, but
no, not yet. I haven't been following it as much. Like for ESPN, like it kind of benefits them to show more esports because first of all, it's cheap to produce. So it's like easy content to create. So I mean, this is the time for that to like continue to grow. And that's something like if things break right, it could kind of work like poker. Like poker was another like cheap and easy to produce like show that ESPN would do. And all of a sudden, like it got more eyeballs and all this, and then you would see more and more days of it. So, I mean, at a time where it's hard to produce enough content to like fill the hours, I think it's smart to just get it on there. And I mean, it's quick to turn around. So yeah. I mean, they're just doing like a glorified Twitch, more or less. So I mean,
yeah, I honestly,
whenever you have to kill an hour and you don't want to show Invincible again, just get some esports on there.
Hey, nothing wrong with watching a Vince Papale movie. I'll watch that any day of the week. Oh man, so what's been sports or not? It's probably going to end up being not sports, but 10 weeks. What's been your biggest quarantine accomplishment, something something you're proud of that you did these last 10 weeks. Is there anything?
Ah, you imagine going to Vegas on a weekend and then like rolling out of bed on Sunday and going to a game? Like just walking from the strip to the stadium?
Incredible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or just like staying out the entire night and just going to the game.
Yep. Yep. And then betting on the game and going to the
gambling
game.
Somehow in the tail. Yes.
God. This makes me so mad. Rob, we were talking about how the Vegas trip was planned for 2 weeks from now, and I canceled it. I finally canceled the reservation yesterday.
Oh, that's tough. That's a tough one.
So
I don't know if how this impacts the recording of this, but
yeah, we were talking about that.
But it says it's converted and it's also still recording somehow. So we'll mash it together. So,
yep.
Zoom as a platform might not be. You know what else I thought about doing with this was making it a like a Facebook route, that new messenger thing, and doing it as like a Facebook. Is it not good?
Nope.
I don't know. I don't know anything about it. To hell with Facebook.
To hell with Facebook. All right. Well, we won't do that then.
Fuck
I was gonna like do a live Facebook Live or something, or maybe Instagram Live. I don't know if you can do. Yeah, I don't think you can do more than 2 people.
Oh, really?
But
I'm not on there either. So.
Oh well, Zoom it is, I guess.
Yeah,
Zoom it is. Mark, you have a house party, don't you?
Oh yeah, I downloaded it once.
Yeah,
for that.
I've seen you in the house a couple times.
Is that the way to go?
On there,
I've only been on there once.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Maybe we'll give that a shot since you know.
It's great. There are games built in. You can play trivia or like heads up or like.
Will that be fun?
Cards Against Humanity. It's great.
Cool.
Oh,
so I missed out on it.
Just play games.
I know, right?
Yeah, right?
I missed out on it. What were your big quarantine accomplishments?
Oh yeah, I didn't have one.
Yeah,
Mark didn't have one either.
Nothing
in particular.
You didn't organize a room. You didn't pick up a hobby.
No, I think I was saying I always thought if I had the chance I would do all that stuff, but I had the time.
You've had 10 weeks. You've had 10 weeks and you've done nothing.
Yes, so that means I've optimized my life because I'm living exactly the life I want to live.
But you also told me that you've thought less of yourself. You told us that you thought less of yourself as a human because of this, because you've done nothing. So Mark, pick a side. Which is it?
No, there's plenty of time for just thoughts to bounce back and forth.
You've been thinking about how you're less than you thought you were. So
yeah.
Before
when you're locked up, emotions bounce back and forth.
That's true. Before quarantine hit, I was like on the verge of being like the healthiest I've ever been. I was going to the gym every day at lunch because the gym was like a block away from work, and then work stopped. Well, going to the office stopped, and then gyms closed, and then because Anderson was at home, like I couldn't even go for a walk or run. Like at lunch, there's like lunch was reserved for family time.
Right.
Like, I had to step away and hang out with Anderson because I'm not showing him any attention throughout the day. So now I've just been doing nothing physical for like 2 months. It's like I had it all together, and now it's basically all gone. All my hard work.
Yep.
I broke out. This is gonna make me. I don't know. How do y'all feel about Pokemon Go?
I haven't played that in a long time.
So I hadn't, and I'd been taking the kid on walks, up around the neighborhood. It started out with him just in like one of those little blue push cars. So I was pushing him along. It's turned into he's now on a little tricycle. So we go on walks around the neighborhood, and complete opposite for me, where I was, not doing anything, and probably in worse shape. I recently, like I think I said it, I started coaching wrestling at the high school, so I've been needing to be in shape for that. So to keep up with high schoolers on a wrestling mat. So it's kind of gone the exact opposite way, where I was used to being in a wrestling room 3 out of 5 days a week, to now I feel like I need to do something. So we've been going on those walks, and staying active when I can and putting steps in on Pokemon and all that sort of stuff, walking around. That we got a couple stops and gyms in the neighborhood. So that's our course as we walk around the neighborhood, is to hit those and then make our way back to the house. So, not that that's an accomplishment that I'm proud of, but
I wish I had I wanted to do like a huge puzzle, but you can't do that with around a 3-year-old. It's not possible.
No.
So yeah, nothing. No accomplishments. Life is pain.
You're raising a 3-year-old. He's alive.
Yeah, that's true.
And you're alive too, importantly.
Yeah.
And Mark, nothing.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I'm still like contributing to society. I'm doing my job. I mean, that's not nothing.
Oh yeah,
that's
fair. That's fair.
Not nothing.
That's not nothing. Oh my God. So, do you want to change that? Do you want to do something, or are you perfectly content?
Well, what do you mean? You think I should like get another hobby?
No, I mean, are you content not having a hobby? Are you content not having accomplished anything?
Mark, when are you gonna get your life together? I think is.
That's right. I was trying to.
This feels like an intervention.
Yeah, right.
Okay, well, give me an example. What do you think I should be doing? So, like,
I don't know. So let me. I've
work.
I've done yard
work day.
I've done yard work. I tore out 2 trees while we were here.
Ah.
That's something, right?
So I should kill a tree.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
It was already. Listen, this tree was already. The both of them. One was half dead. It was an evergreen that was half brown. It was an half brown evergreen. And the other one was dead. It was a dead tree that was just in our way, and it would give me scrapes across my face every time I would mow the lawn and have to walk by it. So it needed to go. So for my own personal safety. So I tore them out, and that's where we're at. So that's something I accomplished. You have any trees you can tear out?
No.
We're
putting in like a patio space this week. So
there you go.
Mean,
like, that's
I guess the accomplishment is I hired someone to do it. So
you have so much time. Why?
YouTube, man. YouTube it.
No, that's.
Wait, what is the
it's beyond my. It's beyond my.
It's a set, or is it?
No, it's like flattening the yard, pouring concrete, that kind of stuff.
Oh, that's a huge deal.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yes.
Deal.
I can't do that.
That's fair. I thought it was like just putting in some pavers and like, carving out a little path.
No.
No.
Yeah.
All right. That's fair.
Okay.
That's fair. I cut the cable cord over the last 10 weeks.
Oh, bad choice. Bad time for that.
No,
why?
We switched to YouTube TV.
Yeah, this is a perfect time for that.
Yeah, sports. I'm not going to pay the sports fee when ESPN and all these channels can't show anything.
I've been cable free for 5 years.
How have you done it? Like what services?
So I get Sling and Red Zone when football happens, and then I cancel it after.
Smart.
And other than that, it's just a bunch of streaming services. Hulu, Netflix, HBO.
We've successfally secured passwords for Netflix and Disney Plus. And then
no way, you don't even pay for your own Netflix?
Nope.
Wow.
Like sisters, boyfriends, mothers, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah. And they haven't kicked us out or changed the password or anything, so we're good there. And then my brother has Disney Plus. He asked us like 3, 4, or 5 months ago if we wanted to in on it and like to split the service. And we're like, nah, we'll think about it. And then he eventually just got it. And then I guilt tripped him into it because our son wanted to watch Toy Story and we didn't have Toy Story in the house. I was like, did you just like lend us? We'll just give us that so we can keep the kid entertained during quarantine.
Amazing.
Fine. So we've backed our way into 2 awesome services that have been fun to say the least. So, and then we cut FiOS up to the internet. Got better internet, and so they had an option to subscribe to YouTube TV. So we did that. Sent my cable boxes back.
Yeah.
No bulky remotes, saved a lot of space, and
Yeah.
I rewired the house a little bit too. I threaded
Nice.
some Ethernet cables throughout the house to
Ooh.
get a different hotspot in different parts of the house. So I'm
Wow.
sitting right next to one right now.
Wow.
It's been productive. We've found ways to be productive.
Very
So,
nice.
Bob, I think this was a long con for you to brag about all the like
I
handyman
know,
work
right?
you're doing.
That's all. Yeah, right. That's all this was. I just needed to tell people what I've done in life.
Oh, you two have done nothing? Well, let me tell you what I've done.
Well,
Ha
yeah, if you're not rewiring that Ethernet cable, then life is valueless.
Oh, well, this has
Great.
been fun. No.
Yeah.
Successfully made you both feel insignificant and less significant.
That's the job of any good host.
Amen. Amen.
Hmm.
Well, I want to continue this. So Mark, I know you said we're getting close to your bedtime, if I remember right. So
Yeah, whatever you want to do. I mean, I'm up now.
Cool. Well, at the very least, I'll stop the recording. Maybe we'll hang around, maybe we won't. But thank you guys for spending your Sunday nights when we could be watching The Last Ride, or
The Last Dance.
The Last Dance.
My God.
Sorry, we talked about The Undertaker earlier. The Last Ride was on my mind. But we'll watch it. Appreciate it.